And I have Ryan Thomas with me live here this time. So let me start this over again, and just kind of preface this that this Facebook Live has come about as a result of the post that I did this morning, which inspired Ryan to create an amazing post. And my post was looking at the idea of have we gone too far? Have we taken this whole power, us as women, taken this power to be believed, which is awesome that we have, but have we taken it too far? Have we taken it to the point where now it's being used, inappropriately, and people are lashing out. And so now we have this situation where men are afraid, and I think justifiably so, that men are kind of afraid. And then Ryan, you posted an amazing, beautiful post that seriously made me cry because you were being so vulnerable with it. And I just got to give the headline. It was that you are angry because you're afraid. And so just give me a little highlight on that post because it was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I made someone cry. That was the
in
goal.
A good way. Good cry. Good tears. It was like, that's my feminine, right? Like I can just have a good cry.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I actually did a little bit myself. It sounds so weird to say that. It's like I made myself cry. It sounds weird saying that, but I did in the sense because I was feeling a lot of fear, and I was saying a lot of stuff that I hadn't actually put into words yet. Yeah, essentially, I'm angry both at society, first of all, for all the things that you see in the Me Too campaign of how a lot of women have been treated. I dated a woman who went through a pretty horrific situation in university, and that just made my blood boil. So there's the anger towards society and situations that women have gone through. And then also I'm just angry because I've noticed that the conversation has started to shift towards how men are bad and men are horrible and dangerous, and there's some conversations in some feminist communities where sex is qualified as rape. Just even consensual sex is just rape. And hearing things like this and hearing those conversations start to get louder and louder and louder, it starts to make me scared because it feels as though me as a man and everything that I stand for as a man it's under scrutiny, but it also feels like it's under attack. I think under scrutiny is fine because it like that's going to help us grow, but
the under attack is what I think has gone too far. Like, yes, we need scrutiny. And I think what we need is scrutiny on both sides. Somebody commented on my post and saying, really what people need, one of the things that we need is just to be having bold conversations, talk about our expectations. The situation that I posted about was basically, when the woman, she had all these expectations of she's going to, get together with this wonderful big star, and she was going to have a date and it was going to be lovely and romantic. And meanwhile, he was thinking it was just going to be a hookup. And so he was acting from the place of it was going to be a hookup, and he didn't physically pressure her, but he asked several times. And like, what man doesn't?
Right? I'm going to be honest. The number, if I didn't ask twice, the number of dates I would have had, sexual partners, girlfriends definitely would have gone down significantly. Right. So to ask a couple times doesn't necessarily mean that you're being pushy. It just means, okay, well, and a no, what I've learned is that when a woman says no, it just means not yet. Sometimes it's a straight up no, and it's like, okay, yeah, I felt that. That's a straight up no. Okay, take care. Right. But then a lot of times it's more like a no, not really feeling it right now.
Right. And that's where it's like we need to be having these clearer conversations and saying, when you're going out on that date, it's like, is this a date? Is this a hookup? What is it that you're looking to get out of this? What am I looking to get out of this? Having that bolder conversation that is actually clear so that both parties can come to the table instead of a lot of women default back to, oh, I shouldn't ask for that. Oh, I need to say no. And it's just not necessarily attractive. And yet it's a pattern that we get into, this idea of that's what being feminine is holding back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, women are raised in, to not cause waves. Men are raised to be, well, I mean, and I think, especially when testosterone kicks in, we like to roughhouse, and there's that competition, and conflict is sort of a part of growing up as a guy. Whereas with women, conflict isn't seen as ladylike. You're not supposed to be arguing. You're not supposed to be doing those sorts of things. So in a lot of ways for women, it can be really hard to say no, because there's a fear of conflict. There's a fear that someone's bigger. There's a fear that, there's so many gray zones in this entire discussion, and now I guess that's another reason why I was starting to get upset, because I felt that a lot of the grayness of the conversations was being put into cut and dry, black and white. This is exactly how it is. This is exactly how men are. This is exactly how women are, and men are the problem. And as soon as we start doing that, we lose a lot of compassion for one another. We lose compassion for the other, and we also lose a lot of compassion for ourselves, because we don't recognize our own humanity and how we're contributing into the situations that we find ourselves in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that piece where, like, I love that idea. It's like we need to come back to our humanity and, be actually engaging and looking at the other person, to be like seeing past what is on the surface. So, I kind of want to move into a little bit of tools, because like we can intellectualize all of this. And I think this is part of the problem of what's been going on. The Me Too campaign raised a lot of awareness. It was great for awareness, but what did it do for healing? Not necessarily a whole lot in my mindset. I think it, stirred a lot of things up. Maybe it, created some change. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. But to just intellectualize all of this and not say, well, what do we do about it? So if we start talking about what do people do about it? So like, let's come at it from the male perspective. So what is it that men can do to start engaging differently with women? And we'll just talk heterosexual relationships, just translate it. If you are same sex, it's all the same, same stuff, same dynamics, just same sex instead of opposite sex. So I just want to put that out there that.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's all good. Yeah. I operate from that mentality anyway, so that works for me. I think the Me Too campaign was like amazing, and I think for healing, we need to start having those conversations first. In a lot of ways, confession is in the Catholic sense. You go to church and you confess your sins, and just the act of doing so can release a lot of that pressure. It's not bottled up inside of you. You said it out loud, and then it loses a lot of that power. So I think that the Me Too campaign gave a lot of ways, a lot of opportunities for people to release the stuff that's been bottling up inside of them. Say, hey, this thing freaking happened to me too, and I'm angry. So what it is that we can do. So I guess for men, for me, I guess what I did in the past was I embraced my anger, and I embraced my hatred. Like, to be honest, I actually used to hate women. It's not something that I am super proud of, but I used to. And then because of that, I found myself in unhealthy relationships, and then those women would hurt me because they were unhealthy relationships. And then that just fed into it, that, oh, women are terrible. And then I'd be angry and I'd treat women poorly. And then the women that I attracted liked guys that treated them poorly, And
people then, like me back then. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, okay, well, okay. And then they treat me poorly back. And then, it's just this vicious cycle. So and then working in the military for as long as I did, you're in this more of a men's culture, and I'd see a lot of situations of divorces and things like that, and stories of guys that would come back from overseas and their wives had left them and they lost everything. So you see that sort of thing that just fuels this fire of hatred and anger. And I see that, right now towards men. So I understand that anger. What made a difference for me was when I started recognizing that I was the only common denominator in all of the relationships that I had. I recognized, well, my mom is a woman. She's pretty awesome. So not all women. Okay, that doesn't. Okay, so the jury's out on that one then. Okay. Well, my friends are women. They're pretty awesome. They wouldn't treat me like that. Okay. Well, that woman that I dated, she was actually really awesome, and I was just a dick to her. So I screwed that one up. Damn it. Okay, well, I guess I'm the only common denominator here, and that was the hardest thing for me to realize. And once I realized that I was the only common theme. Once I realized that, I was able to heal my anger and my hatred and my fears, and start recognizing and focusing on all the positive things that I liked about women. So it really was just a shift in perspective and a shift in focus. But if I didn't do that,
it sounds too like you decided to look inward and you decided to question your beliefs.
100%.
So you were walking around with a certain belief: I hate women, women are awful, and women treat me bad. And then you decided to, wait a minute, is that actually true?
Yeah, well, in some ways, kind of like the lighting here, the darkness and then the light, right? There were women that treated me like crap, but I didn't notice all the good women that were around me, treating me well, treating me with respect and not hurting me. I chose, and I didn't realize it was a choice at the time, but I chose not to see them. Mm-hmm. I only chose to see the ones that hurt me.
Yeah.
And, so I had to make that shift. But the only way that I could, it was a weird battle. Like, I had to intellectualize it first and say, women are bad, brutal, blah, blah, blah. And I'd have to say to myself, I just caught myself saying that. Okay, well, where have I been treated well? And then I'd have to think specifically and put in an effort to find the women that had treated me well. And then it was a slow process, as well as healing myself for why I had so much anger and frustration and hatred. So
yeah. And so I'm guessing that you did that on your own. You didn't work with anybody. Okay. So, we both know that if you work with somebody, that process can go a lot faster.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It was like 5 years I was doing this. It was like 5 years. And then finally I went for some, it was group therapy, and there were these exercises to actually feel into the anger and feel the hatred. And there was something called a dyad, and we'd get into, feel. So women would line up and then the men lined up, and then we yelled at each other, all the things that we hated about each other. Like, why are you so manipulative? Why are you blah, blah, blah? Like, and really felt it. And then there was an exercise where there were guys holding one guy back and then women holding a woman back. And then those two individuals just screamed bloody murder at each other. Wow. And just the anger of all men coming towards all the anger of all women, and all women coming towards the man. And it was an unbelievable exercise. Like I was literally shaking. And so was she. And it was only 30 seconds. We did it for 30 seconds. And afterwards we had an amazing hug. And there was something that clicked for me, was an integration of that anger that it's really hard to explain, but
it sounds like it gave you permission to release the anger in a space where you weren't it was okay to be angry, and you knew there was a time limit. It wasn't going to be forever. It wasn't going to, go bad because somebody else was containing it. Mm-hmm. and there's a power in that when somebody is actually holding that space for you to say, okay, let's have this out, feel what it feels like, honor it, and then release it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very powerful.
Very powerful. Yeah.
Like that and that's, kudos to the person that held that space, because that's an intense experience to take people through, and could go bad if it's not, not done with somebody that's very experienced. So don't try this at home on your own. Please don't do this with your partner without guidance. Okay. This is
definitely not.
Disclaimer. Please don't. No, because like then we just find out somebody got killed. Like that's just wrong. Oh my God.
Definitely don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home. Here's the legal disclaimer. So for other people, like one of the other things that I've been really digging into is really releasing the judgments that we have on first of all, on ourselves. And I found that the more that I was able to kind of like dig in on the layers of how much I judged myself and my sexuality, then the more I was able to open up to men. And I have a similar background in that I had a lot of years where I hated men, but I wanted to be with men. So I was with men and I was nasty to them. And then I picked men who were abusive because I believed that men were abusive. And so I picked assholes, basically. It really wasn't pretty. So, like in hindsight, you're like, oh my God, that was really just a big train wreck. So, thank God I figured that out. And I do have a very supportive, loving partner now. So I do want to hold that out too for people, that it's possible to heal it. So even if you're in a situation where you've been attracting crappy partners, it is absolutely possible to change it. But the change comes here first. And you've said that too. It's like you changed what your thought patterns were, you changed, and that changed how you felt about women. And so then you could attract different partners.
Well, there's also there's so many different layers to that. I mean, on the one side, if you want to go secrety, what you feel, like what you put out is what you're going to get when it comes to feeling. Yes. And plus, if you go into a room and you meet people, you're just going to pick up on their vibe. We do that. We're social creatures. Absolutely. We pick up on people's vibes. It's our intuition. It's our instant thoughts, or as well as our own projections onto people. We just pick up on people's vibe. So if you've got this vibe of anger or disdain or whatever, you're going to be projecting that. Even if you don't fully recognize it yourself, you are going to be coming from that place. And if you're coming from a place of love, compassion, and authenticity, and then you're going to be projecting that, and people are going to pick up on that. So you're going to naturally start to attract different kinds of people simply because you're coming from a different place. So there's that component. And then there's also the mental aspect of it, where we can train our brains to recognize different signals. And I totally just lost my train of thought of where I was going with that.
Yeah, I'm like, that's very interesting. So we can train our brain. So we're training our brain to pick up the signals of other people. For example, so there's just a vibe. Let's say a dog trainer. If you've got someone who's afraid of dogs on one hand, and then you've got a dog trainer on the other hand, they're going to look at a large dog very, very differently, just with snap judgments. Right. Just based on their belief systems and their awareness. Absolutely. So that's what I mean by you can train your brain, and you can train your belief systems, and you can train you can train your filter for the world. So yes, if you naturally believe that men are bad or brutal, like you did, your filter is you're only really going to notice those men. Yes. And then you're going to bring those in. Plus, you're going to pick up on their vibe because you're putting out that vibe. And then it's just a whole onslaught of chaos and pain.
and sadness.
Yes.
And
Let's not
resentment and
relive that.
self-loathing. Let's not do that.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. That was, yeah. And
so there's that belief system. So you can change your belief system and start to recognize the better people, as well as coming from the different place in your heart as well, that you'll naturally start to attract people. So there's sort of a couple things going on there.
A couple things. Yeah. And I love that. It's a multifaceted situation. It's not just one thing or another. We need to change our beliefs, which requires us to get honest with what's going on. And then, for me, I really have a strong component of believing that we also need to clear out this energetic residue of past hurts and past traumas, and it's like these imprints and programs that get stuck in our system, and that makes it easier to adopt new beliefs. So we're more open and more receptive to a different wavelength that's coming in.
There's this it's a Zen proverb, I believe, and I can't remember the specific details of it, but essentially there was a student that was causing the teacher some problems. And so eventually the student asked for a cup of water and held out his cup, and the teacher came over and started pouring up the cup with water. And the teacher let the water fill up until the top, until it started overflowing, and it was overflowing and overflowing until the student said, master or teacher, my cup is already full. Like, you can stop pouring, my cup is already full. And then the teacher said, exactly. How can I teach you anything if you already know everything? If your cup is already full, how can I fill it up?
Yes.
And it was, so there's, clean out the residue.
Make some space for something new. And it's, for me, it's made a world of difference. Like, the more that I've made space and gotten rid of all of the old useless baggage, the easier it's been to bring in and attract what I do want, what does work for me, have some more ease with who I am, stop judging the crap out of me. And then if I'm not judging me so harshly, then I'm less likely to judge others, including the opposite sex.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it as well is that, we always treat other people better than we treat ourselves, generally speaking. So if you run into someone who's being very judgmental or hurtful towards someone else, I would hate to
see what's inside their brain.
Oh God, I would hate to be in them and looking in the mirror. I would just, I feel sorry for them. I feel compassion for that. But I also, in a lot of ways, you have to hear them out too. But.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up the compassion piece, because I think that's another aspect of what's going on, is for us to have compassion for other people and recognize that, those that hurt others have been hurt. I mean, they've proven that sexual predators have been sexually abused. This is, it's not to condone their behavior. It's not to excuse their behavior, but it's to have a little bit of compassion instead of moving straight to anger and hatred and fear and all of those things that just don't help you at all.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, in order to truly have compassion for someone else, I think it's important to be able to have compassion for ourselves first. I mean, if I don't understand anger or sadness or insecurity, or if I don't understand those things in myself, how can I show compassion for someone else? How can I give them the support that they need? How can I give them the freedom to be a human being if I can't even recognize my own humanity? And that's where that really comes from for compassion. So the only true way that you can show compassion is you exude compassion. You don't give someone compassion, you exude compassion, because you can see that person, you can see yourself in that person.
Yeah. And, I think as far as coming back to tools, because I really wanted to give people some juicy things to land on here.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Because again, like, it's just so easy. You and I can get into discussing it, and it's so good. So as far as a tool for me, I would really invite people to just, on the physical level, take a deep breath and to imagine dropping into your heart. because that's where your compassion sits. And if you drop into your heart and you allow yourself to just connect with feeling a sense of gratitude or a sense of compassion, and if you need to think of something, whether it's puppies and kittens or, something that's not related to you, and get that feeling and then bring that feeling towards you. And to make that a daily practice until you can start to then take that feeling and extend it out towards the other person. Now, if you've been doing this work for a while, it's a little faster. You can just drop into your heart and to start to feel that sense of gratitude, the sense of forgiveness for you, and then extend that outwards and ask the other person to forgive you mentally. You just ask the other person, which is kind of the Hawaiian method of the. I usually say it wrong. Thank you. That. Yes. Some of those Hawaiian words are a little bit of a tongue twister, I tell you.
Yeah, well, they've only got like 16 letters in their alphabet.
Oh, is that what it is? That's why they have so. It's like, wow. So, So the whole, that is what you. Oh, fun. Yeah, is the phrase that you're dropping into is to first of all say I love you, but you don't just say it. You don't just go like I love you. It's to actually like drop into that space of love, like I love you, and then moving into the forgiveness, and you're asking the other person, I'm sorry, and you're asking, he's like I'm sorry, and then forgive me. Again, like you're dropping into the feeling of it, like to really genuinely ask for forgiveness. And then this is all done. The person doesn't have to be in front of you. Right. And the final piece is to say, thank you. And it's allowing that other person to extend the forgiveness back to you, which is healing for you. So whatever you heal of you heals other people. And so there's that whole circle. And a lot of the tools are that kind of deal where healing you heals others.
Yeah, absolutely. That mantra, that Ho'oponopono mantra, I remember the first few times that I started saying that, I felt this huge chill throughout my entire body. I felt it viscerally. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, my God, I want that again. Oh, Jesus. And then I'd find something else, and then I'd say it. I was like, oh, yeah. It was weirdly orgasmic. It was weirdly orgasmic. And
I love it.
Oh, I get it. Oh my God. And then I started getting disappointed when I wouldn't get that chill anymore. I was like, damn it, I need to really heal myself. Come on, what you got? Come on, Ryan. Take up some real heavy shit. I want to forgive you. There are a couple other exercises that I found really helped me as well. Mm-hmm. One is feeling, first of all, like really feeling that anger. I've written down all the things that have made me angry, all the things that have pissed me off. Like when I'm really feeling it, like I'll write that stuff out, and then I'll burn it, and I'll say goodbye to it. Even though like life is flowing, it's always going to come back. You're always going to have these feelings of anger, but I would write down the things that I was angry about, and even just like tiny bit by bit, burn it away, and eventually it was gone. But when I give it that energy and I actually look at it, I wouldn't get sucked into it, but I would feel it and recognize what was going on, and then I would write it down and then let it go. And that's very different from getting taken in by it. Another exercise, there was this one thing that I did from another teacher of mine, and this was an exercise. We actually had to do this in front of a group, which was really scary. So we had to go in front of the group and we had to experience our anger, and we had to show our anger, and we had to convince everyone that we were angry. And then after that, we had to go into, I believe it's either guilt or it's sadness. I believe it's guilt. I believe it's, I think it's sadness actually. So from anger into sadness. And then we had to basically cry in front of everyone. We had to, or not necessarily cry, but prove to everyone that we were truly sad. And then from there, we went into guilt. And then from there, we would go into joy. And the idea is that the only true way through joy is to release all this pain and all this shit and getting rid of all of this residue, because we truly are joy and euphoria. Like that's where all this light, right? And I remember doing that one exercise there, which was incredibly profound. And I remember doing it on my own once, not deliberately. I was just really angry one day. I was like, had these thoughts going through my head. And you know what? I'm going to give into this. So I started feeling angry and angry and angry. And I started going through it all and saying all the thoughts that I had. And I was kind of saying it out loud. And then all of a sudden it hit me and I started bawling my eyes out. I had to go into my room. I grabbed my pillow. I bawled. It was like, we're talking wailing for probably about 20 minutes. And then I'd feel some guilt come in there, but then it was right back to sadness. And then I started laughing hysterically, and then I started cry laughing, and I wasn't sure if I was laughing or crying. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I had no idea what was going on. But it was about 45 minutes later. I got rid of a ton of anger and resentment, and I felt very different, and that feeling has lasted since then. And that was about a year ago. So nice. Yeah, that's another exercise.
And it's great. I mean, there's so many different tools, and I think it's really important for people to, try different things out so that you find what tool really resonates with you, what allows you to fully, deeply release it. I've done, it's funny because my journey, like I did that, wailing and screaming and whatnot, and I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I mean, like I played full out, like it was there, but for me, that didn't really unlock it. And so it's something for everybody, right? So for me,
what worked for you then? Yeah.
So what worked for me was these energetic tools that I tend to work with now, where I'm allowing myself to connect with the energy that's underneath it. Because for me, it's like this tethers for all the emotions and all the stuck pieces. They're holding it in place. And so I go in and energetically grab a hold of those and allow myself to release what's tethering it all in. And so it's very light. It's very easy to just, energetically grab it, pull it out as if I'm pulling out like a thorn out of my, out of the side of my leg or something. I'm pulling it out like that. That for me, in working through the different layers and different aspects of what was going on, that was very effective, and far less traumatic than the wailing and beating on pillows. It was really, like, wow, that was fun and did burn some calories, I have to say. I just find that and then the energetic healing sessions that I've had that have actually shifted things in my body, because I find that I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not getting a complete release when I do that kind of process, because I just don't feel a whole lot different. I'm like, okay, well, that was fun, and I felt it, and I because I've done lots of different things that way. But it's the permanency doesn't stick unless I actually address it energetically. I'm weird.
You're not weird. You. I found, like, for men, we're not allowed to be sad. So when we're growing up, if we're sad or scared or anything, we're told to bottle it up. Like, don't cry, don't be a bitch. So the only thing we can do is be angry. So that emotion comes up very easily for men, is anger. That one's usually very easy for men, but the crying is the hardest thing. So when guys are very angry, what's actually going on is a layer below that is a lot of sadness and shame. And anger is something that makes you feel more powerful, because feeling those things is, well, you don't feel very powerful.
Right.
Women, on the other hand, they're not allowed to be angry. Don't cause a ruckus, don't cause conflict, don't create any waves, be a lady. And being angry is not being a lady. So often when women are feeling angry, they'll cry. So the exercise was both an exercise for men to feel the anger and then go into that layer below. And then for women, it was also to feel that sadness and then also use that to be able to experience their anger. So feel the full spectrum of our emotions. And which is something that I hadn't truly done before. I'd cried watching Titanic, but that's about it. But never truly cried, and that's what that gave me the power to do. And so for me, that's why it was so powerful.
Yeah, and there's definitely, like, I know lots of people who get a ton out of it. I'm just holding out for people that there's something different that's going to unlock it for everyone. Just like there's no one way of eating for every single body. The same thing for on the emotional releasing. It's that process. I mean, I did the whole, feel the sadness and then dig down and feel the anger. And I seriously, like, I was like in rage mode releasing in the sessions. I actually broke apart the poor therapist pillows. But it just, I don't know, it just didn't unlock it for me. And there's no right or wrong in that. Like, that's why there's so many.
You're wrong, Dana. You want to fight about it?
Come on, put them up. I dare you. So, yeah, I just, I always like to encourage people to realize that do what works for you, because the other thing I see with some people that get into the emoting, is they kind of get stuck in that spiral and they're not fully releasing. They don't actually let it go. And I think that was the piece for me. I for whatever reason, it was like I could feel it, but then I wasn't letting it go. And so doing this energetic piece where it's disconnected from the emotion, for me, disconnected but connected, got at it differently. That's the only thing I can think of. Again, we're like going to the intellectual piece, but it's
trying to intellectualize what's going on in our bodies. It's because that's what happened for you. And so you're just, like trying to put words towards a feeling. I had that loop sort of thing happening when I was intellectualizing things. Like, remember how I said that I did the whole Ho'oponopono and I had that visceral, that like it was, I felt it in my body. I actually started getting into this loop, this spiral downwards of, unless I found something like that, unless I found something to fix, then something was wrong. So I started to feel bad about myself if I wasn't finding something to fix, which was really weird.
The addiction to fixing.
The addiction to fixing myself.
Yeah. That's why I love playing on the whole theme of you're not fucked up.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So there's nothing to fix. There's only a choice to change it. And then it breaks a lot of that loop for people where they're like, oh, I need to fix this. And it's crazy making. So, oh my goodness. Okay. So I had promised to keep this in time so that you can get to your next interview. So parting words of wisdom, what would you like to leave people with?
Oh, you put me on the spot there, didn't you? Okay.
Just a little nugget,
just a little nugget of profundity.
Yes. Don't eat yellow snow, little tips like that. Yes.
That's an important one. That is an important one.
Please don't. Yes.
I would have to say, learn more about shadow work and Jungian psychology. So if you can start learning about Carl Jung and Jungian psychology, please do, because it teaches us how we can all of us, both men and women, have the capacity to cause some serious harm and pain in one another. And unless we can learn how to integrate that dark side of ourselves, that's going to drive our behavior unconsciously.
Yeah.
We're just going to cause a lot of pain. We're going to scream for compassion and for other people to look at us and treat us with care, but we're not going to be doing the same thing for them. So, I guess that's about it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I would, leave people off with the idea that it's it's about healing you first and foremost. If you're upset with other people, to start to look within and shifting what's going on internally so that you can shift your interactions with other people. And then I want you to give a shout out of where people can find you and connect with you, because I think you're awesome.
Oh, thanks, Dana. So currently my website is under construction. I'm relaunching the website. It's after about 2 years. It's time for an update. So I'm relaunching on February 1st. Currently, people can find me, Ryan Thomas, on Facebook, one of your friends, so they can find me through there. Also at The Intimate Lifestyle. And they can find the podcast, and they can find The Intimate Lifestyle on Facebook. The podcast used to be called Modern Sex Talks, and now I've changed it all to be The Intimate Lifestyle. So everything is under one brand right now. So
okay, cool.
That's
right. And so my podcast that I did with you is still on the new title?
Oh yeah, it's still there.
All right. Yeah. Just want to make sure, like, just in case I needed to plug myself to get in there on another show, right?
Hey, maybe. Actually, that would be great. I'd love to have you come back on the show.
Fabulous. Oh, thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on and digging into this topic, because I think it's really important. And clearly people were responding to both your post and my post today. So thank you.